Okay, real simple today. We're going to take a look at the first roll of Kosmo Foto Mono 100 film that I have ever shot. This is actually Fomapan film that's been repackaged and rebranded under the Kosmo Foto name, and the person responsible for all of this, Stephen Dowling, he reached out to me a while ago and asked if I wanted to test out a couple of rolls, so I happily agreed, and today we're going to take a look at the first roll together. Originally I was going to test this roll out with the Fuji GF670W. I'm currently borrowing that from my friend Dom, but I kind of forgot that the shutter is also controlled by the battery and not just the meter, so when I went out to shoot the roll, I realized the meter wasn't working, but I was like, well, I'll just meter by eye, it's no big deal. It is a big deal because the shutter doesn't actually open if the battery is dead, but the camera itself would let you kind of continue shooting. So I went through and shot maybe 5 or 6 rolls and then kind of thought, maybe I should check to make sure the shutter is actually opening. And it wasn't, so one roll wasted, unfortunately, but I took the second roll and I put it through my Pentax 645n. I recently picked up this 55mm f2.8 lens. This gives you a 35mm field of view in the 645 format, and that's pretty much my favorite focal length. So I took a walk around town, shot some photos with my friend Trent, and yeah, let's take a look at the photos. The first photo and the last photo on the roll are my two favorite photos on the roll, actually. This one here, I just love the lines and everything, and I love the tonality. This film is pretty contrasty. I've noticed that the shadows and the blacks go really, really dark. However, it held up much better than I expected, and Steven mentioned that a lot of people experiment with this film and pushing it all the way up to 400 or 800, even though it is a 100 speed film. I shot this at 100 and developed it at 100. All of these were developed and scanned by the darkroom, as they always are, but just for the first roll I wanted to stick with just the base 100 speed. But again, I really just liked this photo for all of the lines kind of intersecting from the power lines to the house to the pavement to the pole there. Everything just kind of lined up, and I really liked this one. The second photo here, I was really just trying to get a feel for the dynamic range, so the building itself being white and in direct sunlight, it was really, really bright, and you have all of these really deep shadows on the right side of this van as it was in the shade. You can see the shadow underneath the van. It's definitely very dark. You're not really getting any detail there, but it's a really dark shadow, so I didn't expect too much. But the side of the van held up much better than I expected. I honestly thought most of these shadows would go even darker. Another photo here, trying to layer everything with the smokestack off in the distance. I tried to use kind of the alleyway leading up to that, and I liked the way that the smokestack just kind of blended in with the light posts and everything, and if you don't really look for it, you don't actually see it right away, but using the smokestack in photos here around town, that's always like a good anchoring point just to kind of give it some context and identification of where it was actually shot. But I was really just trying to get as many different areas of shadow and highlights in the same scene. So you have areas in bright sunlight as well as things that are backlit, things that are in the shade. Just tried to get as much variety of the tones in one frame just to again test the dynamic range. Again, held up much better than I expected. Even there in like the foliage on the right side, you still have good shadow even though it was in really dark shade. Bob's Bootery, this is an old shoe repair building in downtown Chillicothe. They just recently closed officially. They're not going to be opening back up, and they've been around in the community for so long, and it's sad to see them go. So before this becomes something different, I wanted to go ahead and just get a photo so that I could send it to the owners and just make sure it's there preserved more for the community's sake rather than, you know, making a nice photo. But you can see in the reflection there behind me where I was standing, it was in darker shade, and you can see, especially being a reflection with it being darker, a lot of that shadow detail was lost there, but again, that's not really what I was shooting for. Another high contrast scene here that I wanted to test out for the sake of highlight retention and shadow detail. The building on the right there, it burned a long time ago and it's kind of sat in this condition for a really long time, and the foliage has just completely taken over not only the building but the power lines, the garage and concrete wall next to it. But I really liked all of this kind of looking and in this kind of state, but then in the background there you have the church steeple. So after that, I shot another frame. I really kind of liked the way this sign with the point at the bottom kind of mirroring the point of the steeple off in the distance, so I got in a little bit closer and tried to focus on just those two things there. Again, nothing too exciting. I just wanted to walk around and test this film out for the sake of this video. Down at the intersection of Main and Mulberry, I shot a very similar scene here for social distancing, so I thought it would be fun to try it with a different format and a different film stock. So I shot a couple here. The first one I shot portrait orientation, second one I shot landscape orientation, which I actually think I like the portrait orientation version more. In the book I shot this in landscape orientation on HP5, so it was fun to just revisit that and try it again with, again, a different format and a different film stock. My buddy Branson, he works at Roast Coffee. He just got off work. Obviously, he was working in the kitchen that day, so you can see his shirt looks the way that it does. But he and his girlfriend Haley, they were getting ready to leave for the day, and I just asked them to stand in for a quick photo together, just so they could have a nice photo together. And also, I wanted to test out what this would look like on skin tones. Then I grabbed Trent and we walked over to the building next to my office and shot a few portraits of him as well. You guys might recognize him from the video I did with my Mamiya C330 shooting Fuji 400H and HP5. If you haven't checked that video out, I'll put a card up at the top of the screen. You can check it out after this video. Trent's a really good dude, great photographer, and he's always down to sit in for some portraits. Really like this one here. The hat was so low that I was getting really dark shadows under the eyes, but all in all, I'm actually really happy with how these look, and I like that contrasty look for portraits like this. I think I would have really liked this photo had I actually nailed focus. You can see I back focused a little bit, so it's more focused on his left eye versus his right eye, so that's a bummer. And the next photo, I would have really liked this one. I like the composition, I like the way everything looks, but I blatantly missed focus on this, so way to go, Matt. Next photo. The grass was growing up pretty high here, so I just had Trent lay down in the grass there, almost as if he was taking a nap, so he kind of took his hat off and just basically rested it over his forehead and over his face, and I really liked this one right here. Just the shirt and everything, the grass, the way it kind of just slowly goes out of focus as you move towards the feet. I actually really like this one. Last photo on the roll, and this is my favorite on the roll as well. I love the light on him, especially in the eyes. It just looks great, and with this high contrast film, it really just pops. I shot this wide open at 2.8, but if you zoom in, it's nice and sharp. I really like the way this one turned out. So that was my first roll with Mono 100. All in all, it surprised me. It has a very interesting look. I will stick with HP5 for just my daily black and white film just because it works for pretty much anything, but I do like shooting this film, especially for portraits. I'll probably do another video shooting this in 35mm with portraits if you guys are interested in that, so if so, let me know in the comments down below, as well as any other thoughts or opinions on this film or the photos. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. We have new videos every Monday at 8 AM Eastern Standard Time. But that is it for today. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.